Yes, that's right. The Chinese economy grew by 7.4% at an annualised rate in the first 3 months of this year. It's the lowest rate seen in nearly 2 years, but better than had been expected. If the rate had dipped just 0.1% more, it would be at a level not seen for 5 years in the world's second largest economy. You can see there how it compares over the past year, so below all those rates that we've seen over that period of time, but still represents that slowdown, as you can see from the last quarter. Well, for more on this, we can go to Beijing and speak to our correspondent there, Shannon Van Sant. Hello, Shannon. Can you tell us, I mean, these figures aren't as bad as had been expected. Should we be relieved?
Well, we have to keep in mind that China is trying to slow its economy down. What they're trying to do is make some very serious structural reforms that will enable them to shift the economy away from an economy based on manufacturing to an economy driven primarily by consumer spending. This is not an easy process, and China has initiated a number of reforms to try to rein in spending while not slowing down the economy too much. So it is a very difficult balancing act that the Chinese government is trying to do right now.
And is the Chinese government likely to launch another round of stimulus on the back of these growth figures?
Well, China unveiled a small stimulus just a couple of weeks ago. That included more financing for infrastructure projects. It also included public housing plans, as well as financing for small businesses. And Xinhua, the state news agency, said that China had no plans to unveil a big stimulus plan in the near future. But economists here, many of them are warning that if China doesn't make some very serious reforms within the next 2 to 3 years to its economy, it could face a crash or a hard landing. And those reforms including reforming its shadow banking or illegal banking system, trying to stem what may be a growing real estate bubble, as well as trying to rein in local debt at the local government level. So China has a number of things it needs to do pretty quickly in order to keep its economy on track and growing at some measurable pace.
OK, we'll be watching that closely, I'm sure. Shannon Van Sant in Beijing, thank you for joining us.
And Stephen, the markets do tend to be very reactive to this kind of news, don't they? Are we seeing much impact on the markets?
In fact, they seem to be a little bit confused in how to react to this on the Chinese markets this morning. Shanghai pretty flat, dipped slightly into the red after those figures were published. As you can see, it's back in positive territory now. No great movement, though, similarly on the Hang Seng in Hong Kong. In fact, the biggest movements we're seeing in Asia today are over on the Nikkei, up over 2.5%. As you can see, that's being driven by SoftBank, which shares have soared over 8%. This after the Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba reported a huge jump in earnings. SoftBank owns 37% of that company, so they've really been helped in their shares there. Good corporate earnings were also helping things over on Wall Street and trading on Tuesday. All of the markets there finishing in the green, despite the big falls we'd seen on the European markets earlier. As you can see, the S&P 500 leading the gains there.
OK, and there are plenty of items of companies news around today. Stephen, run us through a few of your top headlines.
We're going to start with Yahoo, in fact, which saw its shares soar in after-hours trading despite reporting a 20% drop in earnings in the first 3 months of the year. That company was also boosted from its stake in the Chinese firm Alibaba, which had seen its revenue surge by 2/3 by the end of 2013. Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer also managed to boost the company's ad revenue by 2%. That's the first increase it's seen in 3 years. Sales of Coca-Cola around the world have fallen for the first time in 15 years. Volumes of the drink were 1% lower in the first quarter of this year. The company still managed to beat expectations with earnings just over $1.6 billion between January and March. That's down 8% though on the same period last year. And the world's largest microchip maker says its earnings fell too in the first 3 months of the year, but at the same time, Intel's revenues were up by 1%. The company says although its PC business continues to decline, it shipped 5 million chips for tablets over that period.
OK, and finally now, Amazon has come up with a rather interesting way to boost staff morale.
Yeah, the company's decided to offer warehouse staff in the United States payments of up to $5,000 to leave the company. The idea is they're trying to encourage unhappy workers to go. Anyone who's worked less than a year can get $2,000. Those payments increase per year of service up to a maximum of $5,000. The offer is being made to workers in a letter headed, "Please don't take this offer." the Amazon CEO, Jeff Bezos, saying that the goal is to encourage those to take a moment and think about what they really want, because an unhappy employee is bad not only for them, but it's also bad for the business. Amazon is still actually hiring staff for its warehouses. It's not a case of trying to reduce staff numbers, but there has been quite a lot of criticism of the working conditions in Amazon warehouses, and that's what's led to these offers coming from the company.
Wow, I'd be very interested to see how many people take up that offer. Thanks very much. Stephen Carroll there with the business news, back in just under an hour's time with more headlines for us. It is time now, though, for Web News with a message for drivers tempted to use their camera phones behind the wheel. Is that you? But first, let's find out how help is being galvanised online for victims of the giant fire in Valparaiso in Chile.
The forest and hilltop homes in Valparaiso covered in huge flames and thick black smoke. This amateur footage filmed over the weekend bears witness to the scale of the deadly fire raging through Chile's historic port city since Saturday. It's caused widespread damage. Thousands of families have been forced to flee their homes and have been living in shelters over the past few days. A number of flyers have been posted to Twitter under the Fuerza Valpo hashtag, explaining most of these displaced residents have lost everything and are in urgent need of food, water and clothing. Information shared by charities and organisations that are making online appeals for donations and volunteers. And as we can see from these photos, people have responded to the pleas for aid. The shots were taken during Operation Twitterus Solidarius, a basic necessities drive for victims organised by a Valparaiso-based web user on Sunday. Google has set up a site providing real-time updates for those affected, a platform that web users can also contribute to. It features a map locating collection centres and emergency shelters in Valparaiso and also the capital, Santiago. Taking a selfie while driving. It's very dangerous and is currently proving extremely popular on social networks. Drivers posing for slightly staged or spur-of-the-moment shots and then posting their pic to Instagram or Twitter, generally under the driving selfie hashtag. Public authorities and road user associations in the UK and US in particular have voiced strong concerns and are urging motorists to be more responsible and cautious when behind the wheel. As the Daily Mail reports on its website, 1 in 14 drivers in Britain has admitted to taking a selfie while driving. Basing its figures on a recent survey conducted by the site Confused.com, the British Daily says the craze is particularly popular among 18 to 24-year-olds, with 11% saying they've taken a photo of themselves whilst on the road. Car manufacturer Ford has produced this video posted to Facebook last week to show these selfie devotees that what they're doing is just as dangerous as talking on the phone while driving, and urges young drivers to keep their eyes on the road and their hands on the wheel. A number of police officers have also taken to the web urging caution. In this ad produced last month, a cop from the Florida Police Department says taking a selfie while driving can have terrible consequences. A growing trend which she says is extremely reckless and should be severely punished.
I'm Captain Raz from your Florida Highway Patrol.
A Dutch teenager identified only as Sarah posted this tweet on Sunday as a joke to American Airlines. "Hello, my name's Ibrahim and I'm from Afghanistan. I'm part of Al-Qaeda and on June 1st I'm going to do something really big. Bye." But the airline didn't find it funny at all and replied moments later saying it was taking the threat very seriously and had passed on her name and IP address to security and the FBI. Local authorities have said the 14-year-old could be facing prosecution. As part of Batman's 75th anniversary celebrations this year, DC Comics has released this animation short featuring the Caped Crusader. Produced by Bruce Timm, Batman Strange Days is available to view on YouTube and pays tribute to the earlier adventures of our superhero back in the 1940s.
Okay, time for a short break and a weather check. Coming up in today's special Focus Report when we're back, how Algerians living here in France are hoping to make an impact in the presidential election back home.